Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shardcast. My name is Rosemary, K-Myth on the forums and Discord, and I'm so happy you're joining me for Theory Time with K-Myth. Today, I'm here to talk to you about a particular theory that I've been working on for several years now. One that may shake you to the very foundations of your fanish core. For I believe I have uncovered, nay, glimpsed the future of, the culmination of the entire Cosmere series. Now, before I get into it, this will include spoilers for the Cosmere to date, up to and including Wind and Truce. Consider yourselves warned. Without further ado, I present to you all the final iteration of the Cosmere, the super secret hidden story that will take place after the space opera Mistborn era, the ultimate final form of Brandon Sanderson's magnum opus. My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic is the Cosmere. Now, take it down a notch. I know it sounds like I've gone and lined my hat with aluminum, but I promise you, by the time I'm done, it's going to make perfect sense. In fact, I believe I can make a case that the magical land of Equestria is, in fact, Scadrial itself. First, I had better catch some of you up on what I'm talking about here. My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic is a cartoon that aired from 2010 to 2019. About a group of magical ponies having adventures and learning valuable lessons about friendship. Ponies themselves come in 3 types, each of which is represented by 2 of the main 6 characters. Earth ponies are renowned for having a connection to nature and include ponies like Applejack and Pinkie Pie. Pegasi are able to fly and direct the weather, represented by Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. Finally, unicorns tend to have more overt and varied magic and include ponies like Rarity and, of course, Twilight Sparkle. Together, these 6 ponies form a tight friendship group and have adventures and end up saving the world. A lot. You also have a lot of other species in this world, including dragons, griffins, hippogriffs, etc. Most notably, the ponies themselves are ruled by the Alicorn Princess Celestia, an immortal winged unicorn possessing potent magic of her own. After the pilot episode, she's joined in her reign by her sister Luna, also an Alicorn. Watchers of the show will also know that Twilight Sparkle eventually gains Alicorn status herself, but we'll cover that in a bit. Of additional note is a certain villain-turned-antagonistic ally, a veritable chaos god brought to life by the great John Delancey. No, not that chaos god played by John Delancey, the other one. Thank you. Note, fair listeners, that this being goes by the rather familiar name of Discord. Okay, so some of you are probably going, well, this is shaping up to be the most ridiculous Cosmere theory I've ever heard. Yeah, Remember when we thought Shana Devar was tinfoil hat level stuff? Just bear with me here. I think once I've laid it all out, you're going to see the logic. How could this have come about? Well, we know that Roshar and Scadrial are gearing up for a conflict of some sort, and that retribution is now on the radar of every shard as a very serious threat. We are clearly headed for a multi-shard war, and that much power getting thrown around is going to end up with some folks getting hardcore splintered. As to which shards, obviously Harmony/Discord is involved, and I see elements of devotion, dominion, retribution, and cultivation woven into Equestria's world. But, of course, there's one more shardic ingredient in this cartoon pony soup, one that's absolutely necessary for the sheer amount of nonsense involved, and that is whimsy. And yeah, none of this works without whimsy. So, as I said earlier, I am about 85% certain that Equestria is a transformed Scadrial, primarily because of the lowest of low-hanging fruit, how integral Harmony is to the magic of pony kind, but also because it would have been easier to lay the groundwork of a trap and for retribution on Harmony's home turf. I don't think it's Cell, mostly because blowing up the entire door would probably have shredded things way worse than, oops, everyone is ponies now. There is an argument to be made that it's Roshar, primarily based on all the singing. Yes, the singing. Look, this is a music spren. Look at how pony it is. And everyone on the show is constantly breaking out into song. Coincidence? I think not. Indeed, I think the music spren are such a vital part of the world's magic, every pony is bonded to one. It probably fixes whatever cognitive block is involved in giving sapient people horse shapes and horse mouths and horse brains. And of course, there's the fact that Equestria has a moon, whereas Scadrial doesn't. There are, however, a number of ways in which this could have changed, up to and including Retribution dragging Braze along with him when he attacks. Yeah, it's a stretch, but there are options. Another argument for Scadrial is the sheer amount of the metallic arts that appear to have seeped into the world's magic. Earth ponies are known for being strong and steadfast. That sounds like allomantic pewter to me. Pegasi, for the most part, have these cute little stubby wings that really shouldn't be large enough to carry them into flight, unless they're able to manipulate their weight, a la ferrochemical iron. Unicorns can do a lot of weird things, as their magic is the most overt, but pick Rarity. Her special talent involves locating gemstones buried in the ground. Reminiscent of Seeking, no, especially if those gemstones hold forms of investiture that are less likely to leak than Stormlight. Fluttershy, though not a unicorn, is known for being able to cow animals into good behavior with her stare. Emotional allomancy, anyone? Rainbow Dash has a signature move called a Sonic Rain Boom. Basically, she flies so fast she creates a rainbow. It's at least 20% cooler than it sounds. Steel Running. Granted, you do see other powers showing up. The magic of the Everfree Forest practically drips with Cultivation's influence. Some unicorns can teleport, which is obviously Else-calling. Celestia and Luna's magic give them power over the sun and the moon, which seems to align somewhat with Dominion's intent, with, having dominion over those particular realms. And Pinkie Pie has some sort of weird chaos field that it's very whimsy. The prevalence of Scadrian magics is so pervasive that I'm strongly inclined to believe that this is the planet we're dealing with. And the last piece of evidence for Scadrial, the changelings. These guys are shapeshifters. Obviously transformed Kandra. So there are definitely arguments to be made against this being Scadrial. The moon issue is the biggest problem here, though we also have it established that the rising and setting of both sun and moon are manual magical processes, which could mean that the entire solar system has had to be restructured. Hence why my uncertainty level is so low. We've established the players and the planet. So how did it happen? And how did we wind up with the already splintered Celis Shard duo in the mix? There are a number of possibilities, but I'm inclined to believe that someone figured out how to build a nuke out of Aeon Door. It may have even been a sacrificial thing where Harmony and Cultivation decided that the only way to stop Retribution was to bring the bomb to him directly. That would have spread just enough pieces of those shards around to influence the world. Whimsy's involvement may have been a mitigating factor, helping to shield the mortal lives on the planet from the destructive power of the bomb, and thus dispersing Whimsy's essence into every facet of the planet. The splintering of so many shards recreates the world. Again, poor Scadrial. But instead of killing everyone, the second Catacendre transforms the people into the ponies, lesser dragons, griffins, etc. of Equestria. The two combination shards don't necessarily split evenly either. From Scadrial's native shards, you see splinters of Harmony, Discord, possibly even individual pieces of Ruin and Preservation lying around. Some coalesce into what becomes the elements of Harmony, a very important chunk of magic in the My Little Pony universe. Possibly there are a few bits of devotion mixed in. It seems to be fairly consistent with how Harmony operates on Equestria. Other splinters form into the being known as Discord. Definitely a bit heavy on the Ruin, and a very unhealthy dollop of Whimsy added there. Discord really is an interesting case. While the elements of Harmony do ultimately form a level of sapience and will that we see shown near the end of the run of the show, Discord has a very strong personality much, much earlier. I find it very likely that he started out as an actual person or cognitive shadow that picked up a pretty solid dollop of power. But who? Someone we know, like Hoyd or Kelsier? or a completely as yet unknown player? Only time will tell. Brandon gets to control the details after all. Now, the lore behind the elements of harmony is particularly interesting. They develop over time, changing and attuning to different ponies through the ages. Along with gaining self-awareness, they demonstrate Shardic future sight and the ability to reject or deattune to individuals who hold them. Most notably, they did this with Celestia and Luna 1,000 years before the run of the show. By the time the show happens, both of them have been around for a long time, obviously. If they have any pre-second Kadasundra knowledge, though, they haven't shared it with anyone else. But in that long past, somewhere along the line, they've bonded to the elements of harmony and fought a number of what I believe are splinter-based threats. I could seriously do an entire video breaking down just their past exploits in regards to Shardic theory. Ultimately, though, Luna became Nightmare Moon, somehow infected with one of those negative splinters. Given her focus on vengeance, I would posit that it was retribution. I find it very interesting that her 1,000-year banishment to the moon and the subsequent automated process that allows her for her release bears striking similarities to Ruin's imprisonment and the refilling of the Well of Ascension. If indeed Luna bonded to a Ruin splinter and becoming Nightmare Moon, this scenario played out remarkably similar to history. However, the major difference was, assuming a preservation or harmony shard pool was involved in her imprisonment, she was somehow able to use the power of herself to unlock her cage after the pool filled. That would have at least temporarily restored some of her connection to harmony and or preservation, and may well have been what allowed Twilight Sparkle and her friends to purify and heal her, rather than just banishing her again. Other evidence. In addition to all of this, there are hundreds of little details about the world that suggest links to Shardic magics. Cutie marks. At a young age, almost without fail, ponies who discover a talent unique to them gain a special symbol on their flank that reflects that talent. This could signify a spren bond of some sort. Second, while Celestia and Luna were born alicorns, according to the lore of the show, it is possible for other ponies to become one themselves. Twilight Sparkle does this in a process that looks remarkably like a partial Shardic ascension, suggesting she has taken up a splinter. Her new status as the Princess of Friendship implies that she, in fact, attained a splinter of harmony. Another pony, Princess Cadence, is said to have undergone a similar process prior to the events of the show, though her power is centered around love. I posit that she is bonded to a splinter of devotion. There is an entire storyline with the Changelings, who again, I believe are transformed Kandra. They have a wild dichotomy to them. While they're portrayed as hateful creatures, they have an insatiable need to devour love. Pieces of odium/retribution and devotion appear to be vying for control over them. Ultimately, most of them end up choosing devotion and divest themselves of the more negative Shardic influence, changing their natural form. And finally, one other recurring villain demonstrates the ability to absorb other creatures' magic or investiture. It's a little less messy than Spike's, it's still facts of hemalurgy. Now, these points only scratch the surface of the multitude of clues buried in this show. The evidence is clear. The Cosmere is, in fact, a My Little Pony prequel series. I realize this is going to be a divisive theory. Some of you are no doubt aghast, but I believe that over the decades, the truth will show my brilliance and foresight. So thank you for watching. You can join us at 17thshard.com and our associated Discord for all the news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. And join me next time on Theory Time with K-Myth when we investigate yet another web of linking connections. Is Doctor Who, in fact, the origin of the Cosmere? Was Adonalsium nothing more than a Time Lord artifact? And could Dr. Hooves be none other than Hoid himself?